The signal that died in the storm. Snow fell like sharp blades from the sky. The wind howled across the ice, screaming like a wild beast. Evan, a human scout from Earth, stumbled through the frozen wasteland. His face was cut from the wind. His eyes were nearly frozen shut. His boots cracked the ice with each heavy step. He had lost contact with his team hours ago. His beacon, his only hope, was blinking red. Weak signal. No response. No rescue. Evan dropped to his knees, coughing. The cold was in his bones now. He looked up, but the sky was nothing but a thick white wall. Snow, wind, and death. He pressed the side of his helmet. "Base, do you hear me?" His voice cracked. "This is Scout Evan Carter. I'm alive. I repeat, I'm static." The beacon blinked once, then died. "No, no, no," Evan shouted, smashing the beacon against his knee. He was alone. Completely alone on a planet made of snow and silence. Far away, across icy mountains and deep frozen canyons, a young alien girl named Sarah sat near a fire. Her ears twitched. She was not like other girls in her tribe. While others danced in warmth, she liked the cold. She liked the way the snow whispered. She listened to it often. Tonight it whispered something strange. A voice, very faint, carried by the wind. She stood up slowly, her eyes narrowed. She wasn't sure, but she thought she heard pain, a cry, a voice calling into the storm. It was not from her kind. It was human. Sarah knew the rules. Her people hated humans. They called them invaders, destroyers, monsters in metal suits. Never help a human, her mother always warned. Let them freeze. But this voice, it didn't sound like a monster. It sounded broken. Her heart ached. She grabbed her snow cloak and pulled it over her shoulders. Without a word, she stepped outside her cave and into the blizzard. Evan couldn't move. He had curled up behind a fallen ice slab. His helmet cracked. His body was shivering too hard to stop. His breath came slow and cold. He didn't know if he would die in minutes or hours. All he knew was, no one was coming. His fingers moved to his chest pocket. Inside, a small photo of his sister. She had told him, "Don't die stupidly, Evan." He smiled weakly. "Too late?" he whispered. His eyes closed. Then, footsteps. At first he thought it was his mind playing tricks. But then he heard it again, crunching snow. Soft. Careful. Then a shadow appeared in the snow. Not human. It was tall, with thin legs, glowing blue eyes, and long hair that moved with the wind. Evan's weak body tensed, his eyes widened. Was this death? The figure stepped, closer. It crouched beside him. Cold claws touched his face. He gasped, "Don't hurt me," but the voice that answered was soft. "I won't." Sarah looked at the human's face. It was young, bruised, cold. He was barely breathing. His beacon lay in pieces beside him. She knew he would die here. She didn't know why, but she couldn't leave him. She pulled him up slowly, laying his heavy body across her shoulder. Step by step, she began walking back through the storm. Each gust of wind hit her like a hammer. Her feet sank into deep snow. But she did not stop. She could feel his heartbeat against her back. Faint, but still alive. In her warm cave, Sarah placed Evan beside the fire. She removed his helmet, his gloves, and covered him with her own fur wraps. She lit more flamestones around him. The human looked strange to her. Soft skin, small nose, weak eyes. Yet he didn't look like a monster. He looked scared. Sarah sat beside him all night, feeding the fire, watching his chest rise and fall. In the early morning, Evan opened his eyes. He saw a soft orange glow. He felt warmth. He turned his head. and saw her, an alien girl, sitting still, watching him. He panicked. Where? What? She said nothing, just pointed to the fire. You saved me? He asked, confused. She gave the smallest nod. Why? He whispered. Sarah looked into his eyes. For a moment there was only the sound of fire and wind outside. Then she said quietly, Because I heard you. Sarah stared into the fire as the human boy breathed softly under her fur wraps. Her own heart beat fast, not from fear, but from something deeper, a silent storm inside her. She had done the one thing her people had warned about since she was a child. She had saved a human. And now he was inside her cave, alive, warm, and looking at her with those strange, soft eyes. The laws of her tribe were clear. Humans brought poison, war, and pain. They came to their world in great ships, digging the ground, building towers, and claiming land. Sarah had seen the stories carved into stone walls, told by elders who limped from old battles. Yet, this one looked like a lost child, not a warrior. And when he spoke, there was no hate, only confusion. Evan sat up slowly, wincing. You really saved me? He asked again as if it was hard to believe. His voice was rough and dry. He coughed twice and grabbed his chest, still weak. Sarah didn't speak. She tossed him a small cup made of bone. It held warm root water. He sniffed it, unsure. She gave him a look that said, Drink. He did. The warmth hit his throat like life returning to his body. Sarah stood, turning away from him. She moved to the far corner of the cave, where a curtain of animal skins covered the entrance. She lifted it and looked outside. The snow still danced angrily outside, thick and fast. No one would survive out there, not even her. But she had to be sure no one had seen her drag the human here. Her tribe's hunters were always watching, and betrayal was not forgiven. Evan broke the silence again. I'm Evan Carter, Scout Team 9, from Earth. He tried to smile. You probably already knew that. Sarah looked back over her shoulder, her silver blue eyes locking on his. I am Sarah, she said quietly, her accent thick but her words clear. You should not be here. Her voice was calm but sharp like ice. You should be dead. He blinked. Thanks. I think. She walked closer and sat across from him, near the fire but not too close. If my people know what I did, they will cast me out, she said plainly. Or kill me. Evan's eyes dropped. Guilt sat heavy on his shoulders. I didn't mean to cause trouble. My ship was scouting. I got separated from the team when the storm hit. He looked down at the broken beacon beside him. I tried to signal them. I guess it didn't work. Sarah didn't reply. She just stared at the flames, deep in thought. She could have let him die. No one would have known. No one would have blamed her. But she didn't. She had carried him on her back through the blizzard, risking her life. And now, with every breath he took, her own future darkened. Evan noticed the silence and spoke again. I'll leave as soon as I can walk. I won't bring danger to you. You will not survive out there, Sarah said coldly. You can't. Walk 5 steps in this storm. I can try, Evan replied stubbornly. Sarah stood quickly and pulled back the fur curtain again. The wind screamed into the cave like an angry beast. Snow whipped inside. Evan flinched. She dropped the curtain again and turned to him. Go then, but take nothing from here. Die with pride. Evan looked at her in shock. She was serious, but she wasn't heartless. Her sharp face softened. Stay here, just for now, until the storm passes. Then you go. Evan nodded slowly. Okay. Thank you, Sarah. She said nothing more. She stood and moved to a small stone shelf carved into the wall. She picked up a glowing crystal and placed it in a carved bowl near the fire. It hummed softly, giving off more warmth. Evan watched her hands. They were long and strong, but elegant. Not like the hard hands of soldiers. he had seen back on Earth. She moved with grace like a shadow dancing through light. That night they did not speak much. But they listened, to the wind, to the fire, to each other's breath. In a world full of snow and silence, two enemies shared a flame. Deep in her heart, Sarah knew everything would change. Her people would not forgive her, and she could never explain why she had done it. All she knew was, when she heard that cry through the storm, something inside her broke. Something ancient, something lonely. And now, that something had a name. Evan. The storm outside showed no sign of ending. Snow still pounded the cave walls like drums of doom. Inside, the fire had burned low, and the air turned colder. Evan lay half awake, sweating under thick alien furs but still trembling from the frostbite that crept into his bones. His breath came out shaky white clouds against the orange glow. Across the fire, Sarah sat motionless with her knees pulled to her chest, her glowing eyes watching him like a silent guardian, cold, cautious but not uncaring. The silence between them had grown heavy, thick with unspoken questions neither dared to ask. "You're shivering again," Sarah said, breaking the stillness. Her voice was low but firm. Evan nodded weakly. "My body's still fighting," he said. "It's like the cold lives inside now." Sarah stood slowly and came toward him, her cloak trailing behind her. She reached into a stone nook and pulled out a small crystal jar filled with thick, glowing paste. "What's that?" he asked, his voice faint. "Root salve," she answered, "for warming blood." She knelt beside him, opened the jar and dipped her fingers in. The paste glowed against her skin like warm firelight. Evan hesitated but then lifted his trembling hand. "Do it," he whispered. Sarah placed her palm against his chest and slowly rubbed the salve into his skin, just above his heart. Her touch was cold at first but grew warm, like the fire itself was moving from her hand into him. He gasped softly, not in pain, but in surprise. "You're not afraid of touching me?" he asked. Sarah did not look up. "Your skin is soft," she said quietly. "But your kind is not weak. I remember the stories." Her fingers moved with care, but her words were sharp like ice. "Humans destroyed the old riverlands, burned our forest roots. My father died on the border wall fighting humans with fire claws." Evan looked down. "I wasn't part of that. I was a child when Earth made contact with your people." Sarah pulled her hand away and closed the jar. "Your name didn't matter then. It doesn't matter now. To my tribe, you're still the, same enemy." Her voice shook slightly. Evan could tell the memory still hurt. "Then why save me?" he asked again, softer. She stood, not answering this time, and turned away. She didn't know how to explain it. Maybe it was weakness. Maybe she hated loneliness more than she hated humans. She tightened her cloak and walked toward the cave entrance. "Stay inside," she said. "If the snow finds your lungs, you won't last an hour." Evan lay back against the fur bed, staring at the flickering roof above. He felt warmer now, but something colder had settled in his chest. Not frost, but fear. He was healing, yes, but he was also deep in enemy territory, inside the home of someone who had every reason to let him die. Yet, she hadn't. Sarah stepped outside briefly to check the ice winds. She crouched behind a rock and listened. No movement, no footsteps in the snow. That was good, but also bad. Her people had not sent searchers yet, which meant they were still too far, or they had already given up on her. She looked toward the distant mountains, her breath rising in little clouds. Could she ever return? Could she explain that she saved a human not out of betrayal, but because the cry she heard in the storm broke something inside her? She sighed and returned to the cave. Evan had fallen into a light sleep. He mumbled something, "Don't leave me," in a whisper. Sarah stopped. She had heard those same words in her dreams, long ago, after her father died. The same plea. The same ache. Without thinking, she lay beside him, placing one of her thick furs over both their bodies. Her skin was colder, but not to him. It felt like peace. Evan stirred slightly but did not wake. And as the firelight danced across the walls, Sarah closed her eyes, her breathing slowing. She told herself it was only for warmth, only for survival. But her heart whispered something else. It whispered that maybe, in this moment, beneath the ice, they were no longer enemies. Maybe, just maybe, they were both tired of being alone. The storm finally broke 3 days later, but the silence it left behind was even colder than the snow. The white skies turned clear and blue. An icy wind softened. But inside the cave, 2 former enemies still shared the same fire. Evan had regained strength. He could walk now, slowly and with a limp, but he was alive, and he owed all of it to the strange, sharp-eyed girl who barely spoke unless necessary. Sarah had grown quiet again, even more than before. She kept busy sharpening her bone knives, boiling roots, or mixing pastes, but Evan could feel something had changed. Something tense sat between them. He tried not to break it. "I'll leave, tomorrow," he finally said one night while feeding small sticks into the fire. "You saved me and I won't cause more trouble." Sarah didn't look at him. "You will not last 1 day," she replied. "Snow wolves roam the lower valleys. Hunters from my tribe guard the cliffs. If they see you, they will not ask your name." Evan nodded, swallowing hard. He had hoped she'd say something different, but he knew she was telling the truth. "Then what do I do? Stay in this cave forever?" She turned her head sharply toward him now, her face tight. "No, I cannot protect you forever. Already I have broken sacred laws." Her fingers touched the glowing crystal necklace on her collar. "They will know soon." He looked at her carefully, then said, "We can leave together." Sarah blinked. "What?" He leaned forward, eyes sincere. "Come with me. You said your people won't take you back. Then let's leave before they come." Sarah stood abruptly, backing away. "You don't know what you say," she snapped. "I cannot walk into human cities. Your kind will fear me or cage me." Evan stood too, but slower. "I wouldn't let that happen." "You wouldn't be able to stop it," she said coldly. "You are only one man." The fire crackled between them. Heat rose, but not from the flames, from the tension building between 2 souls from different worlds. Just then a sudden noise cut the air, a crack outside the cave, soft but sharp. Both turned. Sarah rushed to the entrance and pulled aside the fur curtain a little. She froze. There in the snow was a mark, a hunter's claw staff stabbed into the ground, a warning. Her eyes darkened. "They're near." Evan stepped closer, his voice low. "What does that mean?" Sarah turned, her voice tight with fear. "It means they saw smoke. It means they know someone broke the law." She moved quickly to the back of the cave, pushing open a stone flap hidden behind her bedding. "There's a tunnel," she said. "An old escape path. We use it during raids." Evan stared, surprised. "Where does it go?" "Downhill toward the rock forest." She grabbed her satchel and stuffed dried meat, salve, and her fire crystals into it. Then she paused. "You can go with me, but once we leave this place, we don't return." Evan nodded without hesitation. "I already died once out here. I won't die again alone." Sarah handed him a long fur coat and pressed a firestone into his palm. "Do not drop it. The tunnel is dark." Then they slipped into the cold, stone passage, ducking low, the fire behind them fading into memory. The tunnel was tight and winding, full of frozen air and silence. Their footsteps echoed softly. Once they stopped as they heard a howl in the distance, a long, rising call. Snow wolves, closer now. Evan gripped his firestone tighter. Sarah walked ahead, fast and sure. She never looked back, but she listened. She could hear his breathing. Tired, fast, still recovering. But he didn't complain. At last, they reached the mouth of the tunnel. A wall of vines and ice blocked the exit. Sarah sliced through it with a bone blade and light spilled in. Not sunlight, but firelight. She stopped cold. Outside the exit, 4 hunters stood, alien warriors from her tribe. One of them held a flame staff. Another wore the red head wrap of the Judgment Circle. Sarah pushed Evan behind her. "Don't move," she whispered. The hunters stepped closer. One of them, older, with a silver mark on his jaw, called out in a sharp voice, "You are with a human, Sarah. You know the law." Sarah stepped forward. Her voice was steady, but her hands trembled. "He was dying. I heard him. I couldn't ignore it." The red-marked one growled, "Compassion is not an excuse. He is our enemy." Evan stepped forward suddenly, raising his hands. "Then punish me, not her." All eyes turned to him. The alien hunter stood still. Even Sarah looked shocked. The red-marked hunter stared at Evan. Then slowly he said, "You would die for her." "She already risked her life for me," Evan answered. "Now it's my turn." Silence. Firelight flickered. Something was changing, and none of them could stop it. The cold wind cut through the trees like sharp blades, and the firelight behind the alien hunters burned low as tension filled the clearing. Sarah stood in front of Evan, her body slightly trembling, not from fear, but from what she might be forced to do. The red-marked hunter took a step forward, gripping his fire staff tightly, his black eyes locked on the human. "You speak with pride, Earthborn," he said coldly, "but your words do not change the law." Evan didn't flinch. His voice was steady. "Then what does your law say about saving someone's life?" The hunter sneered. "It says a traitor must answer for her actions." He raised the fire staff and its tip glowed with heat. Sarah didn't move. Her claws curled, ready. Evan reached to grab a broken branch near his foot, but Sarah pushed him back. "Don't," she whispered. "You're not strong enough yet." The other hunters spread out, forming a circle. Sarah knew them. She had trained beside them, eaten beside them, once trusted them. Now they looked at her like a stranger. "I saved him," she said, raising her voice. "Not because I am weak. Because I listened to the storm and heard a soul crying." The hunters hesitated. The silver-jawed one spoke softly. "We have rules, Sarah. Without them, we are nothing." "Then maybe your rules are already dead," she snapped. In a flash, the red-marked hunter struck. His staff came swinging fast, glowing hot, but Sarah ducked low and rolled to the side. Her bone blade flashed out, slicing his leg. He hissed and staggered. One of the younger hunters leapt forward, but Evan, using the last of his strength, shoved a burning stick into his path. The boy fell, screaming as fire touched his coat. Chaos exploded. Sarah spun, knocking down another attacker. Evan stumbled, gasping for air, barely able to stand. A third hunter struck him across the shoulder, sending him crashing to the ground. Blood soaked his sleeve. Sarah saw it, and something snapped inside her. With a roar, she pounced on the red-marked hunter, slamming him to the ice. Her blade hovered at his throat. "If you touch him again," she growled, "you'll feel how sharp mercy can become." The silver-jawed elder stepped forward, raising a hand. "Enough." The fight froze. The cold air hung heavy. Fire crackled weakly as the warriors caught their breath. "Sarah," the elder said slowly, "you should be dead for this. But you didn't run. You didn't hide. You faced us knowing the cost, and the human, he protected you." Sarah looked down at Evan, who lay in the snow, blood on his face, his breath ragged but eyes still open. "Yes," she said. "He stood between me and death." The elder studied her for a long moment, then he turned to the others. "Let them go." The red-marked one sat up, shocked. "What? We cannot—" "We must," the elder said firmly. "We call humans beasts, but this one fought not for himself, but for her. Maybe we are the ones who forgot what honor means." Silence spread. Again. The hunters lowered their weapons. One by one, they stepped back. The elder approached Sarah and handed her a small satchel. There are warm stones, food, and salve. You will have to make a new life now, far from the cliffs. Sarah nodded, her voice low. Thank you. Evan tried to stand but fell again. Sarah rushed to him, catching him in her arms. I've got you, she said gently. He looked up, smiling through pain. So, we're not dead? Not yet, she whispered, holding back tears. The hunters disappeared into the snow, leaving only their prints and silence. Sarah wrapped Evan in furs and slowly helped him walk down the icy path into the unknown. The wind whispered through the trees, softer now, almost like it was blessing them. Two beings from different worlds, once enemies, now something more, walked together into the white wilderness. Neither knew what waited ahead, but they had already survived the hardest part, choosing each other. And in a galaxy full of war and rules, sometimes the strongest fire burns between those brave enough to break both. The snow crunched softly beneath Sarah's feet as she helped Evan along the frozen path that twisted through tall ice trees and quiet hills. The warmth from the fire crystals in her satchel helped only a little. His body was still weak, but his spirit burned stronger than before. They had left the cliffs far behind, walking without direction, guided only by the need to survive and stay hidden. Days passed like breaths in the cold. Nights came with strange sounds in the dark. Shadows moved in the woods, and once they had to hide from a wild snow beast, its breath steaming like smoke. But through it all, they stayed close. Sarah made small shelters in old hollow trees, used her roots and herbs to heal Evan's wounds, and kept watch while he slept. She never complained, even when her hands turned blue with cold. Evan watched her from his bed of furs one night and whispered, "Why do you care so much?" Sarah didn't answer at first. She just sat by the small fire, watching the flames. Then she said, "Because once, when I was a child, I cried in the snow and no one came." Her voice cracked a little, almost too soft to hear. "I was lost for 3 days. My mother said it was a test, but it felt like a punishment." Evan blinked slowly, listening. She turned to him. "When I heard your cry in the blizzard, it sounded just like mine." He reached out, and for the first time their hands touched. Soft, slow, unsure, but warm. That night they didn't speak more, but the silence between them no longer felt empty. The next day they reached an old stone well, half buried in snow. Around it were broken walls and a fallen tower, ancient ruins from a time before her. People had retreated to the cliffs. "This was a border village," Sarah said, brushing snow from a cracked stone. "No one comes here anymore. The wind forgets this place." Evan looked around. "Then it's perfect for us." Over the next few weeks, they built a home out of broken stone, fallen branches, and snow-packed walls. Sarah hunted with her bow. Evan helped gather roots and melt ice for water. Slowly, they laughed more. She taught him to speak parts of her language. He showed her old Earth songs recorded on his broken beacon, which still played sound but no signal. One night, while the wind howled outside, Evan sang quietly in his deep, tired voice. Sarah listened, eyes half closed as if hearing the voice of the moon. "Your kind makes strange sounds," she said afterward, trying not to smile. "We call that music," he replied. "It's what we do when we're too full to speak." She nodded slowly. "Then I like music." Time passed. The snow began to melt slowly. Small green shoots pushed through the ice. Birds with blue feathers returned to the trees. One morning, Sarah stood outside the hut and said, "The season of new breath is coming." Evan joined her. "What does that mean?" She looked at him, her silver eyes glowing in the morning light. "It means the snow will rest. It also means we must decide." "Decide what?" he asked. "Are we alone?" she said. "Or are we something more?" He understood. It wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about belonging, about choosing. He stepped closer. "You already know my answer," he said. She tilted her head. "Say it anyway." He smiled. "I want to stay with you. If this exile is my punishment, then I accept it. I'd rather build something new with you than chase the old life alone." Her face softened, and for the first time she touched his cheek. Her skin was cool, but her fingers trembled. "Then from this day," she said gently, "you are no longer outsider. You are family." Evan nodded. "And so are you." From that moment on, they were no longer just survivors. They were something more, not quite lovers yet, not just friends, but bonded by fire, snow, and choice. And in that ruined village beneath a silver sky, an alien girl and a human man built not just shelter, but a place where the word family meant anyone brave enough to stay when the rest of the world turned its back. The wind returned one morning, not wild like before, but gentle, sweeping through the trees with a soft voice that carried memories. In the small rebuilt village beneath the sky, Sarah stood outside their stone hut, her cloak brushing against blooming frost flowers. Evan sat by the fire pit, sharpening a small spear, though his mind was elsewhere. Months had passed since they had chosen to stay, and the seasons had turned like pages in an old book. The snow had melted, grass had grown, and birds now sang above their home. But the world outside had not forgotten them. One day, a message came, not spoken or written, but left on the edge of the forest, a leather pouch filled with ember dust, a tribal sign of remembrance and forgiveness. Sarah had seen it and said nothing for hours. Then she whispered, "They know we live." Evan had only nodded. They both knew what it meant. Her people would not hunt them now, but neither would they ever return. That evening, as the sun touched the mountains and the fire crackled between them, Evan looked at her, studying her calm face. "Do you regret saving me?" he asked softly. Sarah looked into the flames, her silver blue eyes glowing like starlight. "No," she said. "Saving you saved me too." He smiled, tired but full. "Then this is home now?" She nodded slowly. "Home is not where you are born. It's where someone chooses to stay." Over time, others came. 2 wounded travelers from the deep caves, a quiet old warrior with no tribe left, and a human woman lost after a crash landing. Each came to their hidden place expecting to die or disappear, but found instead a small village with smoke in the sky and kindness at the fire. Sarah welcomed them all. Evan helped build extra shelters. They shared stories, food, warmth. And just like that, a new kind of tribe was born, not bound by blood, but by survival and choice. Some nights, Sarah sat on the roof and looked up at the stars. She remembered her father's voice telling her humans were cruel. But now, as she watched Evan play with a child from the newcomers, she knew not all humans brought pain. Some brought hope. One evening, Evan gave her a necklace, a simple stone wrapped in old copper wire. "It's not much," he said, "but it's all I had left from Earth. Now it's yours." Sarah took it gently and placed it beside her, fire crystal. "Then they will burn together," she whispered. The seasons turned again, and peace settled like snow on the village. The fire they lit long ago, born in a cave during a deadly storm, still burned each night. Not in the pit, but in the people, in the bond they chose. One day, a young alien girl with bright blue skin asked Sarah, "Is it true you saved a human from the ice storm?" Sarah looked at Evan, who was busy carving wooden animals near the garden. "Yes," she said softly. He called out. No one answered, but I heard him. "And he became your mate?" the child asked curiously. Sarah smiled. "Not right. Away. First, he became my reason to stay alive." The girl nodded like she understood, even if she didn't fully. Later that night, Evan and Sarah sat by the fire, alone again, just like at the beginning. "We made it," he said. She leaned her head on his shoulder. Yes, she replied. We left everything behind, but we kept the fire. The wind whispered through the trees again, not with fear, but with peace. And far beyond the forest, in cold stone caves, warriors told a quiet story of the girl who broke the rules and the human who stood beside her. They spoke not with anger now, but with wonder. Because some fires do not burn to destroy. Some are lit to guide the lost, to warm the forgotten, and to show that even in a world of snow, exile, and silence, two hearts, alien and human, can create something strong, something lasting. A family born not from blood, but from choice. And that was the fire they left behind.